Hello, I'm Kimberly Acosta. Welcome to the Native News Update. It's Friday, July 8th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryNews.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Local and federal authorities are investigating a burglary July 3rd at the Great Lake Intertribal Council building in Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin. The Great Lake Intertribal Council is a consortium of 12 federally recognized Indian tribes in Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. The building at 2932 Highway 47 was broken in and vandalized during the early morning hours. A federal government vehicle was stolen from a parking lot and later was found nearby abandoned and burned. The Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police Department, Vilas County Sheriff's Department, and federal authorities are investigating the case. A $200 reward is being offered for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the suspects in the burglary. The trial has been delayed for a third time in the case of 3 Idaho men charged with defacing ancient American Indian pictographs last year. Freddie Bernal, Tyler Carlson, and Gerard Bovenkamp have pled not guilty to felony willful depredation of property in the Coeur d'Alene's U.S. District Court. Federal prosecutors say the men spray-painted a marijuana leaf and references the smoking pot across rock art at the Red Elk Rock Shelter near Hell's Gate State Park. Experts say the pictographs are at least 2,500 years old. A jury trial was set to begin July 12th, but it has been delayed until September 6th. U.S. District Judge Edward Lodge granted the delay to give attorneys more time to prepare for the case. A 50-year-old Native American pleaded guilty in U.S. District Court July 6th into conspiring to buy and sell the carcasses and feathers of a bald eagle. William Creeping Bear of Norman, Oklahoma, a member of the Kiowa tribe, also known as William Stumbling Bear, faces up to 5 years in prison and a $2,500,000 fine as punishment. He will be sentenced in 90 days. Also named in the criminal complaint was Tataka Neshoba Wilson of Norman, Oklahoma, a member of the Choctaw tribe. He did not enter a plea and his case was set for August 8th trial. U.S. Attorney Sanford C. Coates said Creeping Bear and Wilson conspired to illegally obtain and sell for profit the carcass and feathers of a bald eagle. An acclaimed Native American activist and environmentalist will be the keynote speaker of the 3 affiliated tribes' first Renewable Energy Summit to be held July 12th through the 13th at the Northern Lights Community Center in Newtown, North Dakota. Ted Strong, a judge for Yakama Nation in Washington, was named Environmentalist of the Year by the Audubon Society and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and a Columbia River Heritage Keeper by Historical Societies of Oregon and Washington. Dale Brown, a motivational speaker and former coach of the Louisiana State University Tigers, will be July 13th's keynote speaker. On July 12th, a panel will discuss responsible energy development and wind energy development. A reception by Tribal Chairman Tex Hall will feature a talk on Helen Gao, the first tribal member to receive oil royalties, who created an endowment to fund the 3 tribes' museum and college scholarships. Tuesday will conclude with an Earth Lodge tour and riverboat cruise. Hall said oil development will last another decade on the reservation, and the reservation needs to reclaim Mother Earth when the boom is over. The Cherokee Nation honored 5 veterans, including 2 who are father and son, at the June Tribal Council meeting held in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. 3 of the honorees served in the Army, 1 is a Navy veteran, and 1 served in the Air Force. All are part of the long-standing Cherokee military tradition. During the Vietnam War, Chester Kelly served as an infantry division communications specialist and was awarded the Combat Infantry Badge for his actions. Carl Rolston enlisted in the Air Force in June of 1950. He got his basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio before receiving training at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. At age 20, Joe Watt went to Fayetteville, Arkansas to enlist in the Navy. Watt was then sent to San Diego for basic training and on to the Philippines. He also served at various places in the Pacific, including Guam, Japan, Hong Kong, and China. Jerry Davis was drafted by the Army on July 21, 1966. Davis got his basic training at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, before being stationed in Europe. His father, Virgil Davis, was drafted by the Army and trained to be a ski trooper at Camp Hale, Colorado. He was stationed in northern Italy until the end of World War II. The Cherokee Nation honors Cherokee servicemen and women during their regular tribal council meetings as a way to thank them for their sacrifices for their country and as a way to demonstrate the high regard in which all veterans are held by the tribe. Native Americans in the 1600s traded freely canoes for copper tools, deer hides for blankets, and tobacco plugs for other goods. Their commerce, conducted over trade routes that cut across plains and swerved along rivers, was facilitated by the horse that made the long journey possible. And so that horse was featured in each of 13 designs presented by the U.S. Mint engravers for the reverse design of the 2012 Native American $1 coin. The horse has everything to do with the trade routes, said Gary Marks, chairman of the Citizens Coin Advisory Committee, which reviewed the designs June 27th at a meeting in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The CCAC endorsed the same design the Commission of Fine Arts had selected earlier that month, featuring prominent images of a Native American in headdress and a horse. The CFA chose the same design, noting the stylistic consistency with the series' obverse design, and the design selected was also recommended by the Native American Congressional Caucus. Peter Gold, an anthropologist, artist, musician, and author, whose work years ago led him to live among and study the cultures of both the Navajo and Tibetans. In the 80s and 90s, he split his years between the two cultures, traveling from Asia to the American Southwest almost every year. One day, quite abruptly, he was struck by how similar the two cultures were in their approach to compassion and philosophy. That realization led Gold to write a book about the two cultures, Navajo and Tibetan Sacred Wisdom, The Circle of the Spirit, which is a comparative study of the spiritual philosophy of the two cultures that highlights similarities but also universal truths held by each. What he found is that both cultures have a take on compassion and how it should be employed in everyday life, and that could teach the rest of the humanity a great deal. And what he has found in recent years is that scientists in the field of quantum physics and neurology are creating a whole new understanding of the world that resembles what the indigenous cultures have been doing. As an anthropologist, Gold has traveled widely and studied the cultures, philosophies, arts, and ways of life of Tibetans, Alaskan Eskimos, Native Americans of the U.S. and Mexico. He has authored numerous books and articles and is a research associate at the Museum of New Mexico's Laboratory of Anthropology and Museum of Indian Arts and Culture in Santa Fe, New Mexico. On July 17th, the Dalai Lama will present a public talk entitled Bridging the Faith Divide at the University of Illinois, Chicago Pavilion. In the talk, His Holiness will expand upon the ideas put forth in his recent book, Toward a True Kinship of Faiths. As part of creating unity between religious faiths, 12 Chicago area religious organizations were chosen to design an icon of another faith. Included is the Native American faith, represented by the American Indian Center of Chicago. The American Indian Center is designing the Baha'i 9-point star as they interpret their symbolism and faith. The committee representing the Jewish faith was given the assignment of designing the Mother Earth symbol as they interpret Native culture. These sculptures will be unique interpretations of the symbolic images for each of the world's religions. In addition, each sculpture will incorporate a living sapling or plant that will capture the Dalai Lama's metaphor of a tree watered by many different sources. The tree resembles the human soul, while the water represents the different spiritual traditions that can sustain and nurture it. Then on July 18th, the Dalai Lama will join Rabbi Michael Lerner, Dr. Ingrid Mattson, and Reverend Peggy Chamberlain in a panel discussion entitled Building Bridges, Religious Leaders in Conversation with the Dalai Lama. The event will be presented at the Harris Theater for Music and Dance. For more information, you can visit DalaiLamaChicago.com. And that's the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a grand day.